So we're kind of just going to restart a little bit here. Welcome everybody to the Morning Banana Show number 42. We're live streaming on the Periscope and I'm recording on my other camera, and my bumper music was Finest Girl by Connor For Real, which is one of my favorite original artists. I mean, Connor For Real is the realist. Well, welcome everybody. You're at number 42. We've had 42 Rabanas. And I am your morning ho shost. I'm your morning ho shost. There you go. I got it. So, those technical issues aside, Finest Girl by Connor For Real, come on. Anyway, I'm looking at some ads for this house for rent. I showed the place, the rental that we have. We have a couple rentals, and I showed, we've had 1,400 visits to the webpage, and I have more messages on the place that I placed an ad than I can count. And I just keep responding to everybody the same. We're conducting viewings, give us a call to set something up. I have pages and pages of people who are looking at this place. It's kind of what's going on in my world, and we're trying to get it rented. I mean, people who are looking kind of like looking for May 1st. I don't really care to have it filled by May 1st or July 1st or June 1st or whatever, but with good people is what we're looking for. You know, because they're gonna be on the property basically. Not like they're across the city from us or from me and my girlfriend and kids. Anyway, so let's chit chat here. Skim the headlines while I have a banana. I was reading about this yesterday, that the FBI arrested the quote-unquote leader of a group stopping illegals in New Mexico. I got news for you guys and whoever's reading this, and Matt Drudge. The leader of a group, it's not one single solitary group. And these are people, these are Americans who are living around the southern border and realizing that even Donald Trump's government is taking a step back and saying, we're not going to stop these illegals. So they keep, on one side of their mouth, keep talking about building a wall and helping ICE, whatever. And on the other side of their mouth, they can see every day, you know, these illegals pouring over. You can call them asylum seekers. I don't know if these guys are crawling over fences or under holes in a fence, or walking across unfenced areas and going immediately to immigration. I sincerely doubt it. And look, we all know that. We all know that. So these headlines are kind of deceptive. I'll be honest with you. I believe in borders, and for the same reason that I believe in walls and I believe in windows and front doors. That, and I'm sitting in Canada saying this, but if somebody just parked their ass on my front lawn and said, you know, I'm going to live here now, this is where I live, it's not going to happen. One way or the other, they're going to move. So, I mean, I understand that. And if your backyard happens to butt up against the United States southern border and you're looking at this every day, you would ultimately kind of get irritated, right? In a country where you're allowed to have guns and form a militia according to the Constitution, then you and your buddies can form a militia and go patrol yourself. Like, hey, you're crossing into our country now. So, back away from the line and stay over there. So, I mean, I believe in walls. Walls work. The other thing with what happened in Sri Lanka, I'm a little confused as to the Sri Lankan government. Because for years it was run by Britain, and they've had this intertwining history, almost like Israel and the United States, but for years it was a vassal state of Britain. And then in what? Well, it was 87 or 70, no, 80 something, in the 80s, all of a sudden they were granted independence. But if Sri Lanka was granted independence like Canada was granted independence, we're not independent. Not only are we part of the Commonwealth country, but the Queen of England literally owns Canada. Literally owns it. The land is owned by the Queen, which is why I pay taxes to her. So I don't know if Sri Lanka is like that, because they set up a little bit more of a creative governance where he's a semi-president. It's like, it's not a real, he's not the president, he's like a semi-president, and he took the place of the Governor General. You'll notice in many of the places that the Queen of England controls that they have the exact same type of government, because they found that it works. They have a parliamentary government, House of Representatives of the people, and they, over the Prime Minister and over all those representatives that I mentioned, they'll have the Governor General, who's appointed by the Queen of England at an indefinite posting, an indefinite tenure, or whatever you want to call it, an indefinite appointment, as long as, you know, Her Royal Highness decides. So I'm confused about Sri Lanka. I'm the first thing that was kind of bugging me was like, okay, who is running Sri Lanka right now? And I know that it's a big country with a lot of different districts, and they're asking where's God. You know, I wasn't there. I have no idea what happened, and short of being on the ground and deciding after looking at the evidence, I don't know what we can do sitting so far away. A lot of red flags, a lot of fishy things, but you know, for the people who lost their lives, I send my regards, and that's that. I don't know what else to comment on. Elon Musk saying that machine to connect a human brain to computers is coming soon. It's already here, but good for him with Neuralink. Neuralink is his answer to AI robots, you know, basically not needing us anymore, that we have to keep pace with them, so we get Neuralink installed. And then you can access the internet from your brain. Nobody needs to have a memory anymore. He's been quoted as saying many times, I don't love the idea of being a house cat, but what's the solution? I think one of the solutions that seems maybe the best is to add an AI layer in the brain, in the human brain. It's something I've been talking about for a long time. On Twitter, on my website, Technology, Where Are We Really? So, if you want to talk about, let's touch on Easter real quick. I don't celebrate Easter or Ishtar. You'll notice that there's 9 months between Easter and Christmas, because these are festivals that predate Christianity and predate Judaism. You'll have to look up the god Ishtar and the god Tammuz, and there's so many different old Babylonian and Egyptian gods, too many to list, but I got into studying this stuff in my 20s, and I basically studied myself out of the practice of Easter. Our kids don't celebrate Easter, and our kids are smart enough to know that rabbits don't lay eggs, and they don't poop out chocolate eggs that kids can eat, so I don't know what to tell you about that, but we aren't having it. We aren't having the Easter thing, or the Ishtar thing, or the Passover thing. You know, one of the early church's problems, and one of the reasons they held so many original councils, like the Council of Nicaea, is they couldn't figure out, you know, when to hold all these celebrations. It was Passover and Easter supposed to be the same thing, because That's where, if you turn the clocks backwards, some people wanted to have Passover and Easter be the same thing. But if you turn the clocks back even further, the fertility rituals around springtime pre-existed the Israelis' Passover and deliverance from Egypt. And the angel of death passed over, and they crossed through the Red Sea by Moses' miraculous staff. So those were separate entities unto themselves. Easter, Ishtar, and the Passover. And then along comes the Christian version of Easter, where the Messiah, their Messiah, rose, died and rose again on Pesach. It was around Pesach. It was, the whole event was around Pesach, on Passover, and the Messiah was supposed to be the sacrificial lamb, fulfilling all the old prophecies, the old Israeli and Jewish prophecies. He was supposed to be the fulfillment of all this prophetic stuff. So when he arose from the dead, that was the celebration of Easter, right? So the Christians, it's something else. So now we had two things going into this conversation, and now we just emerged with a third. That Christians' version of Easter is the celebration of their baby Jesus. So now you have three things. So the Christians didn't want to be associated with the Jewish Pesach, and the Jewish people didn't want to be associated with the Christians because a lot of Jewish people still don't believe, I would say the majority of Jewish people still don't believe that their Messiah came 2,000 years ago, and they don't believe it. So the Christians decided to believe a part of the Jewish faith, but twist it to their own thing. And then between all those two different, situations, you have the Ishtar that predated all of it. So you've emerged with three different weird holidays. Some of the uninitiated, who haven't studied this stuff and went crazy doing it like I did, try to amalgamate it all into one thing. So Jesus poops out chocolate eggs that the kids can eat, buck, 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 Cadbury cream-filled chocolate eggs, and then we put the colorful eggs on the fields in the front of the lawn with a cross and a manger. So some people try to incorporate it all into one thing, and that's what Catholicism is, really. It's the universal religion. Constantine, when he was forming the early church, Constantine was like a Roman emperor, and his idea was, okay, everybody can be as pagan as they want as long as they submit under the symbols and the one world religion. It was the universal Catholic religion, right? Poppycock, a lot of poppycock. The Trinity predates Christianity, the cross predates Christianity, Easter predates Christianity and Judaism. And if you side with the truth, then you will agree with me. It's all nonsense for the masses. Here we are. Changing topics to the Queen has turned 93. The Queen, our Queen, Canada's Queen, and Britain's Queen, and the British Virgin Islands Queen, Jamaica's Queen, has turned 93. She celebrated her birthday on 4/20. And she's a Taurus, which is kind of weird because she is, her symbol for the Taurus is land, and then she is the world's largest landowner. Look it up, whooownstheworld.com. So good for her. You hear me talk about the Queen of England and the royal family with a form of disdain, and I don't think that that's unfamiliar to many Canadians or British people. But what you don't understand is that I've spent a lot of time mulling over what the world would have looked like if we had some other version of royalty, and I'm not saying that I could have done it any better. And if you look back at all the wars that the world has fought over land and natural resources, you'd quickly realize that either the Spanish people would have been running all these countries and been the world's largest landowners, or next in line would have been King Abdul bin Salman of Saudi Arabia, you know what I mean? Or it would have been some Chinese emperor running all these countries. So I talk a lot of smack, but in reality, if it wasn't the Queen and the royal family, believe me, it would have been somebody else, and things would have been a lot different. Would they have been worse? Would they have been better? I don't want to live under Sharia law. I'd be dead already. That's one way of looking at it. And I mean, China, if you take a look at China, if you take a look at China, one of our other potential world leaders that could have been. Yeah, I mean, eating dogs in the northern parts, the massive internet censorship. I mean, there's a lot of things that I would say, you know what, mobile death squads. I would say, you know, I'm not good with that. But anyway, that's what's going on with me. I'm back at work. I'm not taking a bank holiday. I'm not a bank. I'm going to get back to work. And we're at Morning Banana number 42, going into 43. Thanks for listening to me rant for a bit. Take us out, Eminem. Follow me on Twitter at AdamJosh.com. My website is AdamJosh.com. I also own mindballs.org and a couple other websites. Irrelevant. See ya.